Hello friends and welcome to lesson number 10. This is the second video of this lesson and we are studying manufacturing in India. In this video friends, we will study about the effects of liberalization policy on the Indian economy, okay, as a whole and especially on the manufacturing sector. So we know that the policy of liberalization was brought in 1991 through the LPG reforms. So you must have heard this terminology LPG. So in LPG, the L stands for liberalization, okay, P stands for privatization and G stands for globalization. So this first policy, that is liberalization, is the policy that we are going to study in this particular video. So let us first of all see what was liberalization, what it means. The word liberalization means to make businesses liberal, less restrictive. But let us see what it actually meant. What were the various macro level effects of this liberalization? So liberalization was not just a removal of licensing. So we are making business liberal. The government interferes and restricts to a minimum extent. So it was removal of licensing. But it was not just that, it fundamentally changed the incentives for the private sector. Ownership patterns also got changed, market structures changed, resource allocation in India also changed, and its effects were visible across various sectors and various themes. So there was macroeconomic stabilization, private sector expansion happened because now doing business became more liberal. Trade patterns also changed, investment flows changed, productivity growth increased, and role of services versus manufacturing also needs to be seen here. Okay, so these are the various areas in which this liberalization affected actually. The big picture is that the Indian economy shifted from being state driven to market driven and from inward looking to globally integrated. So this was the effect of liberalization policy. Then what is the impact on GDP growth and structural transformation immediately after liberalization was brought? So the growth averaged 5.5% in 1980s, and before that it was even less. So we know the Hindu rate of growth, which was less, about 3 to 3.5% growth, which was mocked as Hindu growth rate by many global economists, which increased to 5.5% in 1980s because of early liberalization. So some early liberalization policies were brought in 1980s, because of which some growth rate increased. But when the full liberalization scheme was brought in 1991, the growth rate rose to 7 to 8% in many post 2000 years. So even after 1991, it did not happen immediately. It took almost 10 years, 15 years to show its effects. So but we saw very good growth rate in post 2000 years, about 7 to 8% average growth rate. Economic structure changed dramatically after that. Services became dominant, expanding far faster than the industrial sector. So this is something which is idiosyncratic, okay. So it is called idiosyncratic growth path in India, because usually what happens is whenever a country grows, so it expands from agriculture to manufacturing and then to services. So this is the growth path through which a country develops. But in India, what happened is that from agriculture directly we became service oriented economy, and manufacturing or industrial sector could not become that dominant that it should have become. So services became dominant after this liberalization rather than industry. So this was point number one. This was the structural change that happened. Then manufacturing grew to some extent, but not fast enough to raise its GDP share, and this sets up later sessions. So we'll study about this in the later sessions. India effectively jumped from agriculture to services, bypassing large manufacturing expansion. So we could not expand our manufacturing base a lot, unusual compared to East Asian growth model. So East Asian countries like Singapore, Korea, China, and other countries like Taiwan, Hong Kong. So they expanded from being agriculture dominant to manufacturing dominant countries, but we did not see such a growth rate, and that's why it is called idiosyncratic growth path. What was the impact on investment behavior because of this? So pre 1991, what was the situation? Investment was dominated by public sector. So we know that the Nehru Mahalanobis model, it focused mostly on state investment into heavy industries, and public sector dominance in so many areas, and private sector was restricted. There was a license raj. But post 1991, what happened? Private investment surged because of liberalization. Businesses became easier, especially in telecom sector, automobile sector, finance sector, IT sector, and metal sector. So these were some of the sectors which saw a large surge in investment after 1991. And FDI, which is foreign direct investment, became a large driver of capital formation. So capital formation is basically investment. Okay, so when you invest, okay, so investment converts into capital, physical capital of the country, and it is called capital formation. So it is also called gross fixed capital formation. Okay, GFCF. So investment converts into GFCF, gross fixed capital formation, and this is one of the measures of how much physical infrastructure is available in a country. So investment converts into capital formation, and FDI is a source of investment. So foreign investors also came in because we also opened up our economy through the globalization policy. Multinationals entered deeply in these sectors: auto and automobile components, electronic sector, pharmaceutical sector, chemical sector. So it saw a surge in investment through foreign direct investment. Then we also saw foreign portfolio investments, FPIs, integrated India with global capital markets, increasing liquidity, but also make market volatile, but may also make market volatility. So since this foreign portfolio investment is a kind of investment by the foreigners into the local shares or local equity or bonds, and they can anytime withdraw their money. So this money makes the market volatile because it can come and go anytime. So lakhs of crores of rupees is transacted every day. So every day investment happens and people also withdraw money. So this money is not a stable money, this FPI money. Okay, and because of that it is also called as hot money, because it is not stable, it can go out anytime, and it is not really helping the economy in the sense that no asset is getting generated, no capital is getting formed because of it. So that's why it increases the market volatility also, but it increases liquidity, because if money comes into the market, so obviously there is liquidity, people get access to funds, and then they can use that money, these corporations, private companies, even the government also. Okay, so foreign portfolio investment also started happening after 1991. Liberalization thus energized capital formation but made it more sensitive to global cycles. Okay, so now we have opened up, we are exposed to the global cycles and global events that happen. So obviously we will be affected by anything happening outside also. Previously it was not so, we were not so open, we were very selectively open previously. Now what is the impact on foreign trade and export competitiveness of the liberalization policy? So liberalization moved India from a closed economy to one of the world's largest trading nations. So we were previously, for our practical purposes, we were a closed economy, but then we opened up and we became an open economy. Obviously there were restrictions, there were some checks and balances. So, and we did not become as open as Singapore, as open as Taiwan or Hong Kong. We had a lot of restrictions to protect our domestic industries, to protect our farmers, to protect lot of other domestic interests. But we became the largest trading nations in the world. What were the major effects on foreign trade? So tariff cuts were seen, dismantling of import quotas. So previously there were quotas on imports that a particular company can import only this much iron or this much this particular commodity, or there was an overall import quota on a given industry. Then currency convertibility pushed firms to upgrade quality also. Currency convertibility is basically converting rupee into dollar or dollar into rupee, vice versa, or any other currency for that matter, rupee into euro, rupee into pound, etc., right? Rupee into yen. So this is currency convertibility. Convertibility means you can freely convert rupee into any other currency and vice versa. So this was also made possible after the LPG policy, and it pushed firms to upgrade their quality because now they could have access to the global finances also. Exports diversified from just textiles to minerals. Okay, so previously we were only exporting the textiles, but then now we diversified it to minerals, to pharmaceuticals, to automobiles, engineering goods, and IT services. So these all happened. India became a service export powerhouse. So our IT, software, business process outsourcing, BPO, all these are our strengths even today. Trade openness increased competition, forcing domestic firms to modernize, adopt global standards. So these were obviously some of the collateral effects that happened. However, low-cost manufacturing competitors like China and Vietnam outran India in labor-intensive exports. So this is one of the weak points or a pain point, in our economic history, that we could not become a labor-intensive manufacturing hub of the world. So we could not become the factory of the world, and we have about 1.8 to 2% of the total global manufacturing in India. So it is very, very less compared to China, Vietnam, and other countries. So we could not become labor intensive. So whatever manufacturing we developed, it was technology intensive or capital intensive or automation intensive. Okay, we could not move to labor intensive manufacturing and thereby exports also. Then what was the effect on private sector and market competition? Entry barriers dropped. As I told you, liberalization is all about removing the restrictions. Large new firms emerged like Infosys, Bharti, Sun Pharma, Hero Motocorp, etc. Monopoly profits disappeared as competition laws replaced licensing. Market-driven pricing replaced administered prices across many sectors. So previously there was administered prices because it was state controlled. Administered prices meaning the government will tell that this particular commodity will sell at this price. For example, iron will sell at 10 rupees per kg. Okay, so that was administered price. But when it became market driven, so market forces decided, the demand and supply of iron decided what will be the price of iron. So this is just an example. Similarly, here this point, monopoly profits disappeared as competition laws replaced licensing. So previously, as I told you, that the state used to dominate a particular sector, so there was a monopoly, or the state used to give licensing to a very, very few firms, maybe one firm only in a particular sector. So for example, previously only BSNL was the company which was having telecom. Okay, so it was running telecom industry. But then when new private sector companies came into telecom sector, so obviously their monopoly disappeared and competition emerged there. There was no restriction as such. Firms began adopting modern management, automation, global supply chains, and R&D focus also increased. Net result was that on the economy, that Indian firms became globally competitive. Okay, this is very, very important in many niches. So in many, many areas, we became globally competitive, especially pharma, chemical, automobile, all these sectors. So this was the effect on our economy. We saw what was the effect on exports, what was the effect on doing business, what was the effect on foreign trade, what was the effect on investment, and what was the effect on the jobs, GDP growth, structural transformation. So these are some of the different kinds of effects of liberalization on our economy. So here we saw not just about liberalization, but also about globalization policy. Privatization policy, when we talk about it is about privatizing the government companies, the PSUs, and the businesses which were previously with the government. So this LPG policy overall, if we see, was a major economic event in the history of India, which led to many changes. But obviously there are some drawbacks, there are some issues which are still pending, which need to be resolved, which did not happen at that time and even in the subsequent years. That we'll see what are those issues and how they can be dealt with, how the government is still working on them in the upcoming videos. Thank you.